We all know Sydney, right? Bondi Beach, the Opera House, that giant bridge that looks like a coat hanger. But there was something about Sydney I didn't know until I started digging. And what I found changed how I see this city forever. This isn't just about a place. This is about a transformation. From punishment to pride. A city built on chains. In 1788, the British Empire sent its first fleet, 11 ships carrying over 750 convicts, men, women, and even children as young as 9 years old. What was their crime? Sometimes just stealing a loaf of bread or a handkerchief. Back in Britain, jails were overflowing. So the solution? Ship them to the other side of the world, 15,000 kilometers away, to a place no one had really mapped. For the prisoners on those ships, it was a journey through fear. They spent 8 months at sea, cramped in dark, filthy holds. Many died before they ever saw land. But when they finally arrived, they saw nothing but rugged shoreline, dense forest, and isolation. That place would later be called Sydney Cove. But it wasn't empty. It had been home for tens of thousands of years to the Eora people, the original custodians of this land. They lived in balance with the land, navigating it with deep knowledge and culture passed down through generations. And when they saw those tall ships in the harbor, they didn't see settlers. They saw a threat. The impact? Deadly disease, stolen land, and forced displacement. The foundations of modern Sydney were laid on pain, on both sides, rising from the dust. For the next 30 years, Sydney wasn't a city. It was a punishment. Convicts were forced to build, with chains on their ankles, floggers at their backs, and stone in their hands. They cleared forests, carved quarries, and made bricks by hand. The streets you walk today in the rocks were built by people who never chose to be there. Each sandstone wall carries their blood, sweat, and fear. But from that labor, something began to form. Not just a settlement, but a system. Warehouses, jails, government houses, even churches, all built by those society had thrown away. More settlers arrived, many free, others fleeing poverty or seeking a second chance. The city started spreading, markets opened, taverns filled, ships came in not just with chains, but with hope. Sydney, once just a penal post, was slowly turning into a community. But beneath the stone streets, the pain remained. The Eora people were pushed further and further back. Their sacred lands were cleared, their voices nearly silenced. Yet some survived, and today, their descendants walk the same streets, telling a different story, one of survival and resistance. A truth that lives beneath every step in Old Sydney. Sydney Harbour Bridge, the giant that connected a city. Before the Opera House, before the skyline, there was the bridge, the one that holds Sydney together. They call it the coat hanger. But it's more than just steel and stone. In the 1920s, Sydney was a city divided. The harbor split the rich from the poor, the workers from the elite, North Shore from the city, and the only way across? A ferry. So they decided to build something big, something bold, something the world hadn't seen before. But it came at a cost. It took 8 years to complete, 16 lives were lost, hundreds of workers risked everything, working without harnesses, dangling over the water, welding metal in the burning sun and freezing winds. When it opened in 1932, they made a show of it. A parade, flags, a man even slashed the ribbon with a sword on horseback before the premiere could do it. A moment Sydney never forgot. But the real triumph was connection. For the first time, the city could move as one. And even today, whether you walk it, drive it, or climb it, you feel the heartbeat of the city in every bolt. Sydney Opera House, the dream that almost broke them. And then, there was the dream, the one that nearly broke them. In 1956, a global design competition was announced. Nobody expected what came next, a wild, impossible sketch from a Danish architect named Jorn Utzon. It didn't follow the rules. In fact, judges almost threw it out. But one man saw it and whispered, "Gentlemen, this is genius." And so the Sydney Opera House was born. But genius isn't easy. Construction began and everything went wrong. Costs exploded, designs changed, politics got dirty. Utzon, the visionary, was pushed out before it was done. He never set foot inside his masterpiece. But when it finally opened in 1973, the world was watching. This wasn't just a building, it was a symbol, a shell of sails, a sound temple, a monument to what happens when people dare to imagine something bigger than themselves. The Opera House stands today as the soul of Sydney, where cultures gather, music rises, and silence feels sacred. It's not perfect, but that's what makes it powerful. It reminds us some dreams are messy, but they're still worth building. Bondi Beach. Fast forward to the 20th century and suddenly the world was seeing a very different Sydney. Not chains, not ships, but sunlight, sand, surf. And at the heart of that transformation was Bondi Beach. Bondi wasn't always the polished, Instagram-famous paradise we know today. Back in the early 1900s, swimming in daylight was actually illegal. People believed it was indecent to expose skin or swim in public. But Bondi challenged that. It became the place where people pushed back, where rules were broken, for freedom. Then came the surf lifesavers, heroes in red and yellow who watched the waves, rushed into danger, and kept beachgoers safe. Bondi didn't just symbolize leisure. It represented trust, community, and courage. During World War II, soldiers on leave came here to forget their fears, if only for a few hours. They lay in the same sand where surfers now stand. Imagine that, a beach that healed people from the trauma of war. Bondi has seen protests. Bondi has hosted Olympic athletes. It's been the site of drownings, rescues, joy, heartbreak, and history. And today, it's more than a beach. It's a statement that Sydney isn't just built on stone and steel. It's built on the waves of resilience, and Bondi Beach is where the city learned to breathe. Taronga Zoo, a wild escape in the heart of the city. Just across the harbor, tucked into the hills, is a place where wild meets wonder, Taronga Zoo. It opened in 1916, a time when most zoos were cages and concrete, but Taronga was different from the start. They didn't just want animals on display. They wanted education, conservation, and connection. Imagine this. In the early days, elephants would walk down city streets, led by keepers, waving at children as trams rolled by. It sounds surreal now, but it was part of the city's growing identity, playful, curious, alive. Over the decades, Taronga transformed. It became a world-class wildlife sanctuary, home to over 4,000 animals, some of them critically endangered: koalas, tigers, chimpanzees, platypuses. And every enclosure today tells a story about nature, balance, and what we stand to lose. Taronga doesn't just show animals, it fights for them. From breeding programs to rescue missions, this zoo reminds us, even in the middle of a global city, we're still part of the wild. Sydney today, a city of contrast. So what is Sydney today? Is it beaches, skyscrapers, luxury? Yes, but it's also something deeper. It's a city of contrast, where ancient cultures walk beneath modern glass towers, where baristas serve flat whites next to centuries-old sandstone walls, where surfers catch waves in the morning and tech CEOs take calls by noon. It's a place built by convicts, but powered by migrants. From the UK, India, China, Lebanon, Vietnam, and beyond, each wave of immigration changed Sydney forever and made it richer, louder, tastier, more alive. But Sydney still wrestles with its past, with land that was taken, with voices that were silenced, and with the challenge of becoming a city that remembers, while still moving forward. In the end, Sydney isn't just a place, it's a feeling. The sea breeze at Bondi, the echo inside the Opera House, the shadow of a bridge, the story of a city still being written. So next time someone says, "Tell me about Sydney," don't just show them postcards. Show them the scars and the strength, the chains that started it all, the waves that carried stories forward, and the dreams that still rise like sails above the harbor. Because the best cities, they're not built in silence. They're built through struggle, sacrifice, and survival. Sydney is not just a city, it's a conversation between past and present, between people and place, between pain and progress. And maybe, just maybe, in the shadows of bridges, behind museum glass, or in the laughter on Bondi's waves, you'll hear that story whispering to you too. If this story moved you, like, comment, and share it with someone who sees cities differently. Tell us, what hidden history should we explore next? Because every place has a past, and some are still waiting to be told.